Hi, this is Sive Morten with the daily update on EuroFX. I post my exclusive market overviews with the key political and economical events, charts, and important levels on the ForexPeaceArmy.com forums weekly. This short video is a response to rapidly changing situation on the currency markets and should help you to stay on top of the game and be profitable. I suggest you to visit ForexPeaceArmy.com forum and read my analysis for the week before watching this daily video.
Greetings everybody, let's take a look today on the Great British Pound. On euro currency, we actually have discussed everything recently that stands in relation to short-term trading plan. So we have discussed the possible patterns, possible steps that we could take depending on what pattern will be formed. Either euro currency will show direct upward breakout or it still will form the head and shoulders that we discussed. So on every way we have a specific trading plan that we discussed recently. So while market is still calling euro currency around the resistance, we could update the view that we have on the cable. It's overall short-term sentiment on the markets, not just on the Great British Pound, but across the board, stands about dollar weakness. So it doesn't mean that Great British Pound has some advantages or some good fundamental background that could let currency to move higher, but mostly any upward action currently probably happens because of the dollar weakness. And this week we already talked about the cold market, the interest rates, and on the dollar again. So as on the dollar, as on the interest rates, stand short-term bearish context. So if on the interest rates we suggest that might be another downside action and decreasing of the interest rates, that in turn should make negative impact on the dollar as well. As you can see on the dollar index, market is forming head and shoulders, mostly the same as on the euro currency. So it means that in the shorter term, cable could get also some support and could move slightly higher. Although we could have some doubts on the longer term perspective, just because the overall price action here stands relatively weak, and response up from this area also stands, well, not very strong. But in a daily chart with the perspective of the few weeks, maybe we could get another drop here, completion of the OP, and maybe we still will be lucky and we will get the price around 135 area that we set as very, very attractive for taking the long position, because the strong confidence and OP target makes an agreement around this area. But in the shorter term, within a couple of sessions, maybe in the beginning of the next week, while the overall short-term bearish context is valid on the interest rates and the dollar index, cable could creep slightly higher. So just because of weakness of the rival. So on the 4 time frame chart, what we have, if you remember last time when we talked about the cable, we said keep an eye on this downside action. It doesn't mean that market is breaking the bullish context, and until market stands above the broken border of the wedge, it keeps chance to go higher. Only if market will drop below these lows and return back inside of the wedge, that will be bearish. So you can see market was standing very close to the previous lows, but it was able to stay above the wedge, and as a result upward action now stands in progress. Yes, this overall price shape of this action, it's not very impressive, so it's a bit choppy with the deep retracement. That's actually the reason why I think that, this is mostly because of the weakness in the United States dollar. So cable doesn't have its own positive moments that led him to move higher. And that's the reason why I think that we still could get the downside action with perspective of the few weeks on the cable. But in the current situation, I'm not excluding the chance that market could creep higher and return back to the confidence resistance. So it could be some upward continuation here. On the hourly chart, those of you who are trading the cable, you probably saw yesterday in the session, this market actually has formed the bullish, once our XOP has been reached right here. If you remember, we talked about the XOP target based on the hand and shoulders and said XOP target might be reached, and then you could see for reversal what market will show around the support of the wedge on the daily. As a result, you can see market has formed here bullish hand and shoulders pattern. Now we have the ABCD pattern in progress, and OP already has been met. And the problem why a market can't pass through this area is that just because of the resistance of the former pattern. So of course here is the fib level probably exists, but what's more important that actually the neckline of the hand and shoulders, former hand and shoulders, it splits trading room in the two parts. First is below it, second is above it, and market right now comes to this border. Once it will break above this area becomes open for the further price action. Will be significant barriers about it. So market currently is challenging this resistance and trying to pass through it. The appearing and forming of the triangle here is a bullish positive sign because, well, if market intend to just return right back down, usually it happens when the hitting of the OP and market just reverse down, especially when you have this type of direction without any thrusting acceleration like here. It's mostly some kind of the very choppy price action, and in most cases bearish market turns down once the major target is completed. But here we have a bit different type of action. We have the reaching of the OP and turning to the consolidation below it. It mostly has the bullish features and suggests that while market will accumulate enough power, it could try to break it up and continue upward direction. That's why, any perspective of these few sessions, I'm not excluding the chance that market still will proceed higher, hit the XOP around 38.70. That will be target that theoretically could be achieved, especially if we have the friendly background on other assets, as the dollar index, for example. So generally, there stands the bearish context that supports the idea of the possible upward continuation. Besides, XOP stands very close to the resistance that we just discussed. So here it's 38.70, and here comes from 38.84. So potentially it could return right back here. We, by the way, could get here is garbage triple to sell pattern. It potentially could become the moment where the market could start dropping again. But we'll see. But in the very short term, as I said, currently I wouldn't consider taking any short positions by far, and keep an eye on the possible upward action. As a validation of this scenario, you could consider probably inability market to stay in the triangle, return it back down, dropping back below this neckline on the hand shoulders. Well, this will be a significant weight to the downside, somewhere to the 37.25, maybe even lower. So that will be the indication that, well, it seems that the personal cable factors are stronger even than the bearish context on the dollar index. So it's more negative. But currently, in the current moment, I would say that bullish context still valid here, although it is not very superb, it's not very strong, but still it's bullish. So that's what we intend to keep an eye on the cable in the nearest few sessions.